Call to order the City Council meeting for Monday, August 12, 2019. Roll call.
Earl Broberg. Here. Laura Tulowitzki.
Here.
Aaron Austin. Jen Mazias. Tom Niles.
Here.
Karen Novacek.
Here.
Mary McGrath.
Here.
Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And before we begin, I'd like to request that a lot of people comment to me of council members and people who come to the podium speak clearly and directly into the microphone. When people watch online or watch on replays, it's hard to hear. So please speak up. I might be interrupting you and asking you that again. If I've had any comments about that. So first, we have approval of minutes. Do I hear approval of minutes for City Council meeting July 8, 2019?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the July 8, 2019 City Council minutes.
Second?
Second.
Any corrections or additions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next, approval of monthly expenditures.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the monthly expenditures as reviewed.
Second. Second, is there any questions or comments? All in favor, is a roll call?
It's a roll call. Mary McGrath.
Yes.
Karen Novacek.
Yes.
Tom Niles.
Yes.
Jen Mazias. Aaron Austin. Laura Tulowitzki. Carl Broberg. Yes.
And now it's time for public comment. If you have a public comment, please come up to the microphone, and if you could sign in there and speak clearly into the microphone. Anyone would like to speak in public comment? Please.
Good evening. My name is Diane Posner, and I live at 119 North 9th Avenue West. I just wanted to use my few minutes to just give you a little library activity update. This Thursday, Warren Nelson has graciously organized a benefit concert to help with our Tough Quarantine campaign. That will be at the Harborview Event Center. Doors will open at 6:30, and the concert will begin at 7. That will have Warren Nelson, Otis McKinnon, and I believe Warren's son, Rowan Nelson Harris. If you missed out on the Friends Homemade Strawberry Shortcake during Brownstone Days because there wasn't any, there'll be some there on Thursday, so that will be your opportunity. The float will be there for selling raffle tickets. We'll have a display explaining about Tuck Pointing and also a small silent auction. So it should be a really good, fun evening to be. Admittance to the concert is free. That will be taking donations. And then just an update, things are going well in preparation for our library gala, which is September 21st. And we have arranged music and posters and tickets should be available out soon. And we're planning some fun things for that. I want you all to be thinking about how you want to dress as your famous literary character, because there'll be prizes for that. You don't actually have to do that. But if you feel like it would be fun. And that's kind of what's going on in preparations for the library. In regard to the difficult issue you're facing with sidewalks, I just would say you have my sympathy. And I really do appreciate the sidewalk repair that was done from the ambulance and fire station down towards the school. That was nice, but there's a lot of pros and cons on both sides. So just thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak to City Council?
Thanks. Todd Swanson. I live at 101 East 3rd Street, which is in the East 3rd Street Historic District. My wife and I have lived there for 35 years. We live in a house that's 126 years old, and we have a sidewalk that was built in the CCC. A number of concerns about that. One, the size of the project. I did my annual survey in the 3rd Street Historic District today in New Mexico. Between my house and Superior Avenue, which is about 6 blocks, there's something like 30 homes that probably qualify for sidewalks replaced or repaired. I think in the older part of town, there are lots and lots. I think that's just in 3rd Street Historic District. So part of the concern for those of us who maintain historic homes is that the sidewalk and the character of the sidewalk is part of the character of the home. Over the years, we've had numerous people go by our house without sidewalk being so I love your house. We've never had anybody say, I hate your sidewalk. So that's not an issue. Children love to ride their bikes down the bumpy sidewalk. It's fun. It's exciting. So I just want us to be careful about how we proceed as a community in terms of what are we going to do with the sidewalk issue and what impact is it going to have on homeowners, on the history of the community, on an aging population. All of those baby boomers are getting older, we're retiring. So there's a big burgeoning group of people on fixed incomes who are not able to easily afford a $10,000, $15,000, $16,000, $20,000 sidewalk if it goes that route. Also, I think that part of what attracts people to Washburn is the variety of architecture. There may be 2 or 3 houses, UConn houses are the same, but there's quite a variety of architecture in terms of what homes look like. And I think in many cases, the sidewalks are part of that picture. So if there's, if there are proceedings, if there's going to be a committee developed or anybody working together as part of the council, or separate committee, I'd be interested in participating in that. Just wanted to speak my piece tonight to talk about, let's pay attention to the history of our community and think about that in terms of what sidewalks are like. What will cost us? That's all. Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Please come forward. Write down your name and speak your name and address, please.
Thank you. Again, I would name down. I'm Tina Kelly, and I'm at 111 West 3rd Street here in town. And one of the beauties of this kind of event, I find that my own opinion and feelings are expanded by hearing my 2 committee members before me speak, and their points are very well made. and the work, oh my gosh, I don't envy it either. What drew me to want to make some public comment is that, first of all, I do have, as the horrible expression goes, what's, I guess the ox roars, you put skin in the game, in that I live, personally, I'm not involved, but I live on a property, a church parsonage, that would be involved on two aspects. So my comments have that feeling as well. But when I kind of do my best to set that aside, I look at the things that concern me. One is that yes, this would be a huge financial impact for many who may not be in a position to fulfill that. It would cause great hardship. And in the same breath, I do mirror when I hear of kids walking in the street, things like that. I do have concerns, though I do especially appreciate those comments about the architecture. But there may be places that could use that kind of support. So I would encourage whatever committee is formed to also look at, to the degree that sidewalks are a community resource, that might be something that the community together can bear as opposed to individual homeowners, and also looking at those important exceptions that give a qualitative feeling for a place, like those homes where the architecture is spoken by the history of the sidewalk, even if it doesn't meet an ADA standard. So I just want to put that out there. The other, just briefly want to share, I was a little concerned, actually a lot concerned, when I heard that there might be a need with repairs that affect the trees. And that was a big worry, that hopefully there would be outside consultation, advisement, when there's anything to do that might compromise the trees in our community. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak tonight? Yes, step forward.
My name is Scott Posner. I live on 119 West here in Washburn, and West. Since we moved here in 2001, I have walked over 10,000 miles on the city streets, trails, and sidewalks of Washburn, and I've experienced quite a bit of the variety of the condition of the sidewalks, and much of the time I do end up walking in the street. Some of it is because of the condition of the sidewalks. So I do see the concern and the need for something to be done. But I'd encourage you not to take too wide of a reach or try to get too much of it to too high of a standard, just because it will create some hardships for not just homeowners, but small churches that are struggling already, and as we know, some of the businesses in town are struggling too, and possibly affect them. Much of the time that I end up walking on the street isn't because the sidewalk is uneven. That's rarely the case. I'm walking for business, and so I do understand that there are concerns for people who aren't able to get around quite as well. Also, but a lot of the time, it's because there are low branches from trees that haven't been pruned, or hedges that extend out there, or cars, boats parked on the sidewalks, blocking the way. In the city itself, in the winter, piles of snow on the sidewalks. I used to walk during the summer, but no longer can. So it seems like all around there's maintenance needs, tree pruning, grassing the cracks that isn't being cleaned, that should be done as well. I understand that, and maybe there are needs to try to do some sort of enforcement to keep the sidewalks from deteriorating as fast as they are without that. But I would encourage you not to try to bring it up to too high of a standard all over town at a high cost that would be borne by the citizens, residents here in Washburn. And also, I'd just like to encourage you, as you consider this struggle here, from time to time there are requests for new sidewalks to be put into town in new places that remember this, that in the future, as these come up, we have such a hard time taking care of the sidewalks that we already have. Let's get a handle on this before we even consider new sidewalks or new pathways around here. I would like to mention the Lake Walk Trail. I walk that at least once a day, usually multiple times a day. It's maintained well by the city. I think that pathway is a great asset and benefit to the city, and I see a lot of other people walking that and enjoying it. I don't see so many people walking on the sidewalks of the city itself. Granted, it doesn't have as nice of a view, and maybe that a better condition of the sidewalk would encourage that, but I suspect it's more just that there is less walking around than there has been, and when they do want to walk for enjoyment or health benefits, we have that Lake Walk Trail that is nice and level for the part of it and very helpful. I understand there's no easy answer. I don't have an easy answer for you either. But I did want to speak my piece and thank you for all the work that you're doing on this.
Thank you, Scott. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Anyone else? Okay, move on. Mayoral announcements. First, I'd like to make a quick comment. I'd like to note the passing of people of Washburn, and last month I was remiss in not noting the passing of John C. Burke, also known as J.C. Burke, who was mayor of Washburn from 1986 to 1992. J.C. Burke served in the U.S. Navy in World War II from 1942 to 1946. He worked for DuPont. He played the snare drum in the old Washburn City Band. He was known as a great avid walker and rode his bike virtually everywhere. And he's remembered by those who knew him as a really good person who would do anything for anyone he could to help out. And although I never knew Mr. Burke, I knew who he was and saw him around town. I'm very appreciative of his service to this city. And next, we have vacancies on the Harbor Commission, and I'd like to nominate Mary Ann Edholm, who I think the council has information about. I look for a recommendation to appoint her, and a motion to appoint her.
I so move. Second.
Any other comments or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? She's appointed. And then we still have one available position on the Harbor Commission if anyone is interested. And then for the Library Board of Trustees, I'm nominating Tara Janish. I think you have information about. I have a motion to appoint Tara Janish to the Library Board of Trustees.
So
A second. Any other questions or comments? None? Please say aye if you're approved.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Yes.
I would just note up in the Harbor Commission seats that one is will seek to expire in 2022.
Thank you. Next is the discussion and action on draft certified survey map for lots in blocks 18 and 23 of the DuPont Park addition, the city of Washburn. James Bradley is the petitioner. This has been winding its way through the various processes. You have information from our assistant zoning administrator, Bob Anderson. Is there a motion? Would like to have it open for discussion and action on this. Any comments or questions? Scott, Bob, do you have anything to add to? Is there a motion to approve this?
Move to approve.
Second?
Second.
Any further comments or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Next is presentation discussion on sidewalk repairs. The petitioners are Linda Coleman and Connie Robleski. I did see Linda Coleman here earlier. Oh, she's back there. If you want to step forward.
So I have to apologize, but Connie unfortunately was unable to find a flight that would work. She was flying out of state, so she's appearing well, we thought by video, but the video isn't working so well, so I'm just gonna leave it at sound so we don't get distracted. I think that might just be easier. So Connie, can you hear us? I'm gonna turn that up so you can hear her.
And if you could speak directly into the microphone, that's cool.
Very good. Connie prepared a booklet that I wanted to hand out. We have, I'm going to hand out 4 copies, so hopefully we can share them just to illustrate some of the points that we're going to make. So we're here today, and I appreciate your time. I appreciate the comments that were made in the public comment section on this issue of sidewalks in Washburn. And understandably, it's a topic that concerns a lot of people, both because of the state of the sidewalks and because of the prospect of the undertaking to repair the sidewalks and what that might entail. And so I just want to acknowledge that, and we're going to address that in our comments today. But we don't come here unaware of the fact that this is an issue of big concern for the entire community. And in fact, that's why Connie and I are bringing this issue forward. We are aware that the Girl Scouts were in front of the council a couple of months back and addressed issues on Washington Avenue. Connie and I wanted to bring to this council and ask this council to look at the broad scale of the problem in Washburn and not isolate particular streets or avenues. I think it's undisputed that the sidewalks in many places are dilapidated and in need of repair. The mayor noted that in his public post, and I think everybody has acknowledged that there's a problem. The photos in the booklet that were prepared demonstrate some of that problem. And I want to separate out 2 kinds of problems. One is sidewalks that are blocked and inaccessible, and the other is sidewalks that themselves are crumbling or grown over with grass. So there's two types of problems, and the reason I want to separate the two is because I think there are different responsibilities and different ways to address those issues. Talking about the issue of items blocking the sidewalk, and you're going to see some of that in the photos. You're going to see a camper in the middle of the sidewalk, a boat docked, for lack of a better word, in the sidewalk. And those are situations which are unlawful under Wisconsin statutes, and then the statute is in the book too for you. No person may encumber the sidewalks. Sidewalks shall be kept clear for the use of persons on foot. And that's not occurring in Washburn uniformly. You have an ordinance to address that in Washburn, that the city can send out notice and the individual property owner must have those items removed. So there's really no debate about the fact that the sidewalks have to be kept clear. So in instances where they're not, that has to be addressed. That's a shall. And like I said, you're going to see evidence of that in this booklet of some photos. And I don't want to speak for Connie, but she did just go out briefly one day and took some photos. She didn't, so it's not an exhaustive overview of Washburn. This is sort of illustrative of some of the concerns. So in terms of blocking the sidewalk, especially with items that clearly have been there for quite a while, like a camper and boat, that has to be addressed in Washburn, and I think can be very effectively addressed merely with a letter to the property owner. There's no dispute or debate that the property owners have to keep those sidewalks clear. So we ask that the city take action on that. What that looks like, I don't know. If that means forming a committee to bring these issues to the attention of the city council, that may be an avenue toward that. But once the city is aware of a problem, there should be a mechanism for the city to become aware and then send out a notice to the property owner to resolve that problem. Turning to the issue of the sidewalks themselves and the condition of the existing sidewalks. In the materials that I sent you, I did outline the state statute and some case law about the responsibility for sidewalks. Financially, the sidewalks are the responsibility of the abutting property in terms of cost of repair. That's what the law says. In terms of liability, if something happens on one of these sidewalks, if somebody gets hurt because of the state of the sidewalk, that's the responsibility of the municipality, of the city. And the city cannot make the property owner responsible for that. The city cannot say, your sidewalk is in bad shape and you should fix it. And if you don't, if anybody gets hurt, that's on you. City can't do that. They're not allowed to. So while we're considering all of the issues that come into play with addressing sidewalks, it needs to be at least on the radar that if somebody gets hurt on one of these sidewalks, the city bears some liability there. And there's some risk that that's going to be a cost to taxpayers, in addition to, of course, somebody being injured in our community, which none of us want. The cost. There's been a proposal, there's been talk of addressing the sidewalk issue street by street and picking some streets to begin with. I think I've heard Bayfield Street and Washington Avenue. And those are bigger streets. I don't know if that's where the most foot traffic is. I suspect there's a lot of foot traffic between and around the high school and the elementary school and back and forth. If you're looking at, how many feet are on the ground per day. So that method isn't addressing the worst problems necessarily. So you're looking at these two streets, and if there's some really bad sidewalks elsewhere in the city, we'll deal with that another time. I don't know if that's the best way to go about addressing a safety hazard. Just picking two streets and getting to the rest when we have time. But furthermore, I don't know how fair that is. The property owners on Bayfield Street or Washington Avenue, why are they being singled out and told you need to fix your sidewalks? And everybody else, maybe later, maybe. But it's a cost issue too. If this is undertaken on a broad scale to repair the sidewalks in Washburn, a bid can be put out, and that's going to be a big job. And somebody's going to be interested in that job and going to give a good rate to provide the concrete and the work to repair the sidewalks. So doing it piecemeal may not be the most cost-effective approach. In terms of how this is going to affect property owners, I'm a property owner, Connie's a property owner. Taxes are not fun. Nobody likes to pay taxes, and they seem to go up and up and up, and I do understand that, and I do understand that it's a burden. There is a mechanism, of course, where the city can say to all property owners, if you can't fund, your sidewalk repair, and you have a sidewalk that's in need of repair, we can do that, and we can assess your property over time to pay that back. So it's not, a one-time hit in the pocketbook, as much as it is something that is paid for over time. There's also, and I think it needs to be talked about, the benefit of having nice-looking sidewalks. That's a value to a property, as well as a cost. You have nice sidewalks, your house looks more attractive, and being able to sell that house may be easier. In addition to, then you just have a nicer community to live in. When your kids walk down the street, or it was noted we have an aging population, elderly individuals can walk down the street unimpeded. That's a value to the community. That's a big value to the community. And I think Washburn is a place that draws people because of the idea of safety. In a lot of respects. I think people feel Washburn's a safe place. Washburn's a safe place for my kids to go out and play. Washburn's a safe place for me to go take a walk. But the sidewalks aren't safe. And it is causing people in some circumstances to be out in the street. And that's creating hazards. In addition to, when you do walk on the sidewalks, you're facing those hazards of possibly tripping, falling, hurting yourself, kids running, that sort of thing. So while sidewalks are a cost, they're a big benefit to the individual property owner, and of course they're a benefit to us as a community. What we suggest, or what we think, Connie and I, as a proposal that should be considered at least, is taking the position that sidewalks that need to be repaired in Washburn are going to be repaired. All of them, and not singling out this particular street. And then going about figuring out, okay, how are we going to do that? One option, one avenue is looking at grant funding. I don't know if that's been undertaken yet by the city, but that's an option to help fund, especially for individuals who really can't bear an increased tax burden, even if it's spread over time. So looking at the grant options to fund. Also, certainly for those property owners whose sidewalks are not in need of repair, they certainly should have the right to, they're not going to have to repair their sidewalk. So to have a mechanism to say to property owners, all sidewalks in need of repair are going to be repaired. If your sidewalk is not one of those, Maybe you've got, a historic sidewalk and you've maintained it, and it's not a danger. You keep your sidewalk and you move on. But for those that are in need of repair, everybody's in the same boat. It's a burden and an asset. It's going to be addressed. And then trying to get a good rate. Doing this in bulk, doing this for the entire community is going to drive down the cost for somebody who's bidding to do this work for the city of Washburn. Ultimately, the city can pick up the tab and spread that among all property owners, or the city can say, property owner whose sidewalk abuts the side, whose property abuts the sidewalk is responsible, which is allowed by the law, and also because there's an increase in property value, that's sort of the concept there. I think the city can do that either way, hopefully supplemented by grant funding. But we are asking the council to address the issue of sidewalks totally, because that's the responsibility of the city. The city's liable for those sidewalks because they're there. They might have been put in a long time ago, but they're there now. And if they're in a state of disrepair, the city's ultimately liable and responsible for that. And so they have to be addressed. We're asking to do that on a broad scale. We're asking to consider the entire city of Washburn in this process, seek out grant funding, and ultimately, once we finally get our sidewalks into a state where they are usable and they are safe, that there needs to be some sort of committee or group that is responsible or can be responsible. And I heard somebody talk about maybe volunteering earlier to make sure that our sidewalks stay that way. To make sure that there is a method. Hey, if the sidewalk is being blocked, here's how here's who gets notified, and then here's the letter we send out to address that problem instead of these problems lingering and going on. So that's what we're asking the council to consider doing, taking action in the entire city, finding funding when it's possible, and when it's not, when we get whatever grants we can get and find whatever funding we can find to find a way to fix the sidewalks now, because we need to be safe. We need to continue to be considered a safe community for everyone. Donnie?
No, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, no, you said that very well. Forward speak, I apologize, I cannot be there in person. However, what Linda is saying is what we want to bring to the attention. It became very clear over the last 2 weeks by other responses posted that the state of the sidewalks is known by those in the city. And what has also become very clear is that our ordinances that we are all required and live by have a mechanism for us to get that corrected. So thank you for hearing us. Hopefully on the front end, immediately will be the obstruction of the sidewalks. That has a 24-hour notice. That is in ordinance 6-2-5, and that could be an immediate fix as we look at the entire problem moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. What is the council's pleasure? Well, just maybe I'll make a quick comment to Ms. Coleman. I did some quick, a little bit of quick research on grants that some people supplied me, and none were applicable. It was just a brief, but I would speculate it would be difficult to get grants because sidewalks are something that every community would sure like funding on.
Sure.
And being a small city in the North Woods, I doubt there's a whole lot. I could be wrong, but mainly the grants are geared to much larger things going on when you have intermodal connections or transportation connections that are key elements in development, none of which we really qualify for. That's my research thus far. Yes.
Mr. Mayor, in that issue of grants, I did have a conversation with the attorney of the Wisconsin League of Municipalities, and to their knowledge, and that's not total because she was going to do some more investigation, but she knows of no grants that municipalities in Wisconsin have received for sidewalk repair. Now, there could be an obscure grant that they don't know about, that we don't know about. Said that she would do some more research, but that hasn't bubbled up to the surface that, yes, there are 4 or 5 different sources. But I think, your presentation is certainly comprehensive and certainly on target. The council, I think, is well aware that certainly the Girl Scouts, when they came, were very clear and very on point in terms of why it's a problem for them. Their bikes, their moms with strollers, persons in wheelchairs. So I think we're well aware of the dilemma. Certainly the obstruction issue is, as you have framed it, one that perhaps is an easier fix. Needs to enforce that ordinance. But when we move to the repair or replacement, then we get, with all the factors that you've already touched on are ones that we consider in terms of impact to residents. Again, if the city were to adopt your recommendation to do a total repair replacement, we would have to borrow that money. We do not have that money in our budget. And so it would be a loan that we would have to float. I would think that's right, Scott, to make that happen and a loan with interest, et cetera, et cetera. It is tremendously difficult. And I'll just open with that as a few comments.
Ms. Coleman, can you stay up there in case council members have questions for you? And also, I'd like to add to what Ms. Spears-Novacek said. We could do that and borrow money, except that we have to keep in mind that we have a borrowing limit. And in a few years, we're going to be probably anticipating borrowing a very large amount of money when we redo Bayfield Street, which the state is coming through. That will require many millions of dollars in loans. So it's a matter, again, of what is the priority of the city. We don't have unlimited funds, obviously. Not that I'm against sidewalks. I think they're a good idea, but there's a big picture. So that's just one comment on it. Any other council member?
Well, I would just like to, just for everyone's benefit, because not everyone was at council at the time, we've talked about sidewalks a lot since I've been on council. And we just maybe talk about the success or some of the lessons learned, because we did have a sidewalk in Denver that we took over in the downtown area. And I guess just for a recap, maybe Scott, can you just go through exactly how we proceeded with that and what we feel like the benefits and the success has been of that? Because that was pretty controversial at that time too, in terms of clearing of snow in the winter and that kind of stuff. It was more of a winter thing, but I mean, we took a step because we know that we're trying to get accessibility for folks like in our downtown corridor. This was, I mean, it's similar. It's not the same, but it's similar. I guess I just want to talk through that a little bit for our members.
Correct. And the city has had on in its ordinances that for Bayfield Street only, the sidewalks are, the maintenance of those are to be done by the homeowner. And that was not the practice. It's not the person, right? The Washburn, the Department of Public Works will come along and a day or two after a snowstorm and remove the snow and throw it up onto the adjacent lawns and so forth along the property. And that was, in some respects, an issue. I personally was affected by that as well. And my thought on that is it was not being done in a very good manner. In fact, it was better to leave the snow because usually what was left was about 2 inches of ice on the sidewalk and it was in worse condition than the snow was removed. So after some time and different trial and error efforts to improve that, some methods were found that we need to get back to what the ordinance said and start having the property owners remove their own snow in a timely fashion on Bayfield Street just to help support the businesses along Bayfield Street as well. And we see a lot of people walking in the highway, which I think is probably the most dangerous street in the city to be walking in. So the city made an effort to make sure that its properties along Bayfield Street were clear. And then we began over the past couple of years requiring all of the property owners along Bayfield Street to remove the sidewalk on their own. And if they did not, then the city would do that and special assess those costs or with a fine to those property owners. And that is a lot of work to stay on top of because everyone knows it's going to snow every day in a row for 5 days, and then how do you do, and so there is a lot of subjectivity when it comes to the enforcement of that. But we've been getting a little bit of practice, but it is difficult because you have to send it with the property owners of that. We get everyone used to that. If we expand and do a good job of trying to improve the sidewalks in other areas of the city, that ordinance is going to have to be expanded, in my opinion. Otherwise, you're going to have probably at least 6 months out of the year where sidewalks will continue to be impassable. There's no practical way that we have the person power in public works to go around and remove snow on all of the sidewalks in the city. And it will be quite a chore to enforce that. So that is where I have come in, and if we're going to look at improvements in sidewalks, that we do this incrementally. Otherwise, I think they're going to break the back of people working for the city in trying to maintain the entire city all at once. We're just not going to be set up for.
And that's why I wanted to give that context, because we talked about doing this, and then we talked too about the next step of going towards like the schools and kind of trying to pick those areas that were, being mostly utilized, if the kids get safely to school. We talked about Washington, and I agree that, and I don't know if it's true that we get a cost rate by doing something really large. I know sometimes we've had a hard time getting people to bid on things also, but I do feel like sometimes we don't attack things because it's so big and overwhelming, and so incrementally might be our best way to start to look at things too, just because of the, I'm not sure how we can do it across.
Yes, Karen.
I'd like to break it into the two issues. I'd like to go back to the obstruction issue first. We do have an ordinance that sidewalks cannot be blocked by vehicles, motorcycles, ladders, trailers, etc. Do we currently enforce that?
We have not taken a great effort in enforcing it. There have been occasions where it has been enforced, but have we taken the time to go around to make sure that all instances have been enforced? No. And that's largely because we have not enforced sidewalks.
But I'm breaking it into two. I'm saying obstruction is one issue. Quality and repair of the sidewalks, I'm looking at it as another issue.
It has not been a priority.
And who that falls, Public Works or police?
It may be a combination, but it would most likely fall under Public Works. I'd have to under that.
But that, and I'm not minimizing it, and I don't know, you haven't done a total inventory of all blocks in Washburn, and I don't know how many blocks or how many property owners that involves with obstruction of the sidewalk with a ladder or motorcycle. But it seems to me that of the two, that is the easier of the two to start with. And I'm going to get to the repair also, but that could be done. I mean, I understand it's staff time. I understand that staff time then aren't going to be doing something else. But is that doable over a 6-month period or 3-month period to say we'll inventory and we'll identify where there's obstruction and maybe put it on our Facebook page that we're going to start issuing citations if you don't take your stuff off the sidewalk, and then go and see if that works, and then go back with knocking on the door and say, you're obstructing the sidewalk, you can't do that.
That is something that can be undertaken. Will it put something else aside? Possibly. We will have to discuss that internally as to how we would want to proceed and best proceed with that project.
And the council could do that. I mean, say that by,
If that is a priority of the council, we can make that a priority.
that could be one way to address that aspect.
If that's a question for me, yeah, I would agree with that, and I think it's the law, the
Well,
sidewalk shall remain.
I know,
clear.
yeah, read
So
the
enforcing that.
I do think a lot would be eliminated if we did start to talk about it a little bit more, because a lot of it, at least where I walk, is some tree trim, some branch trimming.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about
I
a
know, but
motorcycle
I'm
on
just
the
saying-
sidewalk.
Well, but I'm also saying
Okay.
you can't pass some because you can't, I think
Well,
one of our
I'm not
petitioners
sure.
said too, you have to like duck and go around. Some things can be very easily, I think you would loop them all together.
Yeah.
Like, your general maintenance of just a little bit of maintenance and removal of some things in the way, like a basketball court, different things. I think if you loop those together, you would have a large portion of people go, oh yeah, okay, people are watching, people want to walk on sidewalks, they would start to look at that.
But there's another aspect within that I didn't include, and that is just the maintenance of the sidewalk itself. You're talking about branches, but we also see pictures where there's so much grass, you can't see the sidewalk.
That's enough.
I mean, but that was an
The
obstruction.
condition of the sidewalk is
Yeah.
a little bit different than
Yeah.
obstruction of walking. And I guess my point is sometimes there's some shrubbery that is just trimming and campers and sometimes people with the basketball hoop right in the middle, and I walk around them all.
Jennifer, you were here earlier, if you could speak into the microphone real clearly. People at home always comment on that.
Okay.
There are many requests for that. They want to hear what you have to say. Yes, Tom.
I can see the maintenance part, moving them off, but I talked to one about encroachment on the sidewalk, and he says, well, you can't even see my sidewalk, it's been covered by grass for 20-some years. And
It's his
that's,
responsibility to remove
Right.
that grass.
Jared Renner is not the homeowner, but
Well, that's my thought on the obstruction side. I'm not sure I have great thoughts on the repair side.
Yes, Laura.
Is there anything that would hinder us from having a committee to do research on comparable communities, abandonment of sidewalks, if it's true that it's the city's liable if there were a lawsuit that someone got hurt, the more passable we make them, it sounds like it's the cost for people, it's the passability, it's the use for accessibility. I feel like the only reason I would suggest starting on this main section on Washington is because it's a thoroughfare for resources, the community resources, public resources, schools, the county, the libraries, we all down to businesses, and it's busier. So I'm wondering if in the past what has been researched or discussed, did you have a reason why you chose certain streets? Is it just hearsay that it's busier, or is there some statistic that was gathered or numbers for traffic? Would take someone to do that to ensure? Unless there is a volunteer committee willing to find these things out, how to prioritize what we would stick money into.
The city does not have a specific sidewalk plan, and if the city is interested in having sidewalks, I have suggested that there be a plan. It has simply just been my thought that a logical way to proceed, because we've had the sidewalk request a lot from the school, but I did not find it quite logical that we start a sidewalk network that we develop from this area that does not connect to anywhere else. I believe that we're going to have a sidewalk network or something in the city, and we have a logical progression of, well, what are we trying to connect? Where are people going to? So if somebody wants to do a little more research on that, I'm not going to have any objections to that. But since we have already, the only place where we had an ordinance regarding maintenance was on Bayfield Street, that seemed to be a logical place to start. Let's start where we have, relatively speaking, the best sidewalks in town, and try to branch out from there to make connections to other logical locations.
I think practicing maintenance and on one section at a time and making it common, going to areas where there is more traffic per day, and that could come from reports. Like I've personally seen lots of children walking down roads that are too narrow for the traffic to get to the high school or to get to Washington Avenue, and those are two thoroughfares, and as I've seen. But I mean, having anyone to say that my sidewalk, my street is important, so all my neighbors should pay and to have these repaired. They bought homes that had grass covered because it was too cracked to fix without fully digging it up, so why not cover it in sod and grassy? I think that almost makes more sense. Then there's no sidewalk to trip on and get sued over. So has that ever been discussed? Abandoning sidewalks that are so deeply.
It has not been discussed to this point. We have, and I have advocated that the council should really decide where does it want to have sidewalks, if it wants to have sidewalks.
Does anyone else think it's necessary to have sidewalks everywhere? On rural streets where it's quiet, where being that it is a burden on either individual homeowners or a city that has no time to write grants. Unless somebody finds one. I don't think there are some. I mean, I look too, and I haven't done.
I have not, although I had heard that once upon a time there was grant money on Bayfield Street because of it being historic district. But that was just hearsay. I can't prove that. So it could be perhaps because they're historic districts. But on this issue of where we want sidewalks, if I may briefly, and I'm not your lawyer, but we did include some of the statutes and ordinances in that booklet. At some point, the council ordained where sidewalks were going to be located, because that's what the statute says. The council may do that, and did that. And there are now sidewalks. And I don't think the council can just say, personally, that we are not going to pretend those sidewalks are not there, and we're not responsible for them. I don't think in fact, the case law says you cannot transfer liability for the sidewalks to a property owner and say, it doesn't exist. Possibly, there's an abandonment procedure to literally rip out whatever sidewalk is there. That may be something to explore and say, homeowner, we're going to restore it, here you are. But where they are now, those are sidewalks. And the liability lies with the city for those sidewalks, even though the property owners are the ones who are maybe not keeping them in good shape. As for the snow, I just also want to mention, the law doesn't differentiate between the downtown corridor and elsewhere. The snow issue, the legislature did help out with a little bit by saying the property owner is liable unless the snow has been there for 3 weeks or more. That's what the Wisconsin legislature determined. So everywhere in the city where there are sidewalks, if the snow has been there more than 3 weeks and somebody gets injured, in theory, that's liability for the municipality. If it's less than 3 weeks, then the municipality does not have liability. And I think that's to address the issue of where it snows 5 days in a row and we can't keep up with making sure everybody's shoveling every single day. So the legislature, in their infinite wisdom, determined 3 weeks. But that's the law on sidewalk liability and for snow and for disrepair applies to all the sidewalks, regardless of where they're located.
The way I read that, this is all really helpful information to have, so thank you. But the way I read that was that where the common council deems sidewalks to be in the public interest, and it seems to me things change over time. Sure. It may not seem as necessary, it may not be as flooded with children or wheelchairs or elderly. And I think that is such a two-sided issue when you have elderly with fixed incomes that can't afford it, and then others who also need them.
Right.
But if maybe they don't need them everywhere, if again, it's very quiet. So two sides where we need them now.
Anyone else? Oh yeah, Tom.
Those that are covered with grass, been covered with grass for 20-some years. I don't see why we shouldn't be able to abandon those. And as far as replacing sidewalks, it's gonna be more than just laying down $125 to $130 a yard cement. You have trees that are gonna have to be removed out of destroyed sidewalks, and that's gonna cost additional money. So I mean, we have to come up with a, you know, there's probably 4 or 5 places where the sidewalk's been covered for 20 years. I wouldn't worry about putting sidewalk there or uncovering it. Because of the cost, it's $125 to $130 a yard, and that's a 5 by 5 by 4. I believe is what these sidewalks are supposed to be in outside of downtown. Well, it doesn't take long to start adding up to them.
Where's that number from?
Speaking to the microphone.
I'm wondering where that number is from.
The 125 to 130?
Is that-
Yes, my new neighbor just poured 30 yards of concrete, and it was $4,000.
Is that something you'd be interested in looking into? Do you have somebody that can find out? Oh, that was a question, is we don't know if we can get a large scale, who's ever done that. If there are any companies close enough that would be willing to bid on large scale and if it would be cheaper than that cost.
Yeah, and to answer your question, I think if the council wanted to form a committee, either myself or Connie would be a member, certainly, and answer some of those questions that are directed at the council, or try to.
Mary, please.
First off, I'd like to say, I like your idea, Karen, of the ones we can go after right now. There'll always be an argument of doing this forever, but if there's an apparent driveway and you've been utilizing that land as your own, it can be in your letter, your quarterly, it can be on Facebook, it can be where it needs to be in the newspaper and educate the community over 3 to 6 months. The other thing is that we're just talking in terms of number for pouring just cement and having sand, and there's an enormous expense attached to ADA sidewalks, which will be in demand. And we've lived through the discussion with Pat Cook, and putting a sidewalk is right outside his kitchen window. So there is that sort of thing to happen. But the ADA and the irregularity of the lands within many of our neighborhoods just adds such a cost. And I'm not saying not to do it, saying we have no money bottom line. So the one thing we can do is start with your first suggestion. And then we've got borrowing on our horizon for years to come yet. And I'd just say ADA adds a cost above and beyond what you get for sand, cement, and labor.
Karen.
I've got 2 motions. Let's vote, I'll vote them and see where they go.
Motion, please.
I move that the Public Works Department be directed to look at the situation of obstruction of sidewalks by vehicles, ladders, toys, basketball hoops, whatever, and come back hopefully at the September meeting with a plan of how we can go forward with, one, alerting the community that this is in violation, and that if those obstructions are not removed, a process whereby we begin to issue citations in keeping with the ordinance that we have. So,
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comment? Again, no, Scott?
I recommend that you remove the Public Works Department and just direct staff in general.
I wouldn't take that as a friendly amendment.
And I also recommend that you do not require this to come back to council. You just let us get it done.
Okay. Gonna get it, we'll get done.
We'll get done, and if something else doesn't get done, then I'll let you know.
Okay.
That's his recommendation.
30 days is kind of tight.
Very tight.
Well, just a plan, not,
That
not
plan
We
to,
don't need a
Takes longer
plan, though,
than-
we have an ordinance, so
Yeah, we don't need
well, a
a
plan for how we're,
That's your motion, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna,
um,
so that is his recommendation.
I would amend my motion to say that staff be responsible for coming up with a plan of how they're going to communicate this issue to the residents of Washburn, and that if that doesn't solve the problem of removal of the obstruction, that plan also include the process whereby we will be enforcing the letter of the ordinance.
Is that acceptable? Is that? Carl, is
Yes.
that? I would like to comment that all that seems well enough and fine, except that if you come into City Hall, you might notice we're fairly short-staffed here, and that it seems to me in my now close to 15 years involvement here in the city work, every time something comes up, we say, okay, this is our new priority, add it to the city administrators or staff's list, and understand there's only X amount of time to do things. So realize that, yes, this can be your new priority, but then something else does not get done. And right now, we're entering into the budgeting process. There are other bids working on, other city business on, now that's fine. We can do this, but be aware, when your next item comes up, your next favorite project, that something has to give. Mr. Kluber works not on a strict 40-hour week, he works many hours. And our assistant city administrator just started, and he's allegedly on a 40-hour week. But there's only so much that can be done. So just be aware. That's Karen.
Mr. Mayor, that's why I specifically said Public Works and didn't say.
And then Public Works is a small group of individuals also who have a very, very large
I know, but
list of work to be done that people keep requesting and adding on
would you
to.
like my rationale for why I said Public Works?
You can feel free to speak.
Because Public Works is out and about. And Public Works moves around on city streets. And they could have a clipboard in their truck, and as they go down that street, say, uh-oh, there's a trailer, write it down. I mean, I know it's extra work, but it seems to me that it is doable.
As a matter of clarification, did we put a time limit on this as well?
Could you speak at the microphone, Carl?
Just a matter of clarification, we didn't put a time limit on when this needed to be done, right?
No, my motion, I think my original motion was that a plan would come back in September with how we would communicate this first to the residents, that this is now something that they have to do, and that ultimately there would be in that same plan, the process that would be used for enforcement if a voluntary cooperation or voluntary removal doesn't occur.
Right.
So I had no time limit in terms of when it had to get completed, but I thought that the plan we could at least look at in September.
Yeah, I'm fully in agreement with the mayor regarding the workload on the city staff and public work. So I think we have this as a goal, we deal with it as we can. It doesn't become number one priority because we've got a whole list of number one priorities, and they can't all be number one. So I think if we identify grievous behavior, whatever you want to call it, deal with it, but don't make this a single project on to its own. Just too much for the city staff all at once.
Very generous person.
I often try to think of things, we have a lot of people that volunteer to help out in our community. And I think that, at first I think if we put something out in our next letter that says we're gonna start taking this, and Yes, like Richard does an excellent job of communication. I feel like we start with that, we get a lot of things taken care of. And after that, if we want to form a small committee there's people who love this community, who walk this community every day. We've had some people volunteer tonight. I mean, if you want those folks, after 1 month of giving the community time to get their stuff off the sidewalks, or volunteer to do like a community watch of an inventory, I bet you people would do that for us. And then we don't have to have this discussion and put it onto our, our city staff and our public works. And they can get that list and then we can determine where to go from there. But I really believe that if we ask our community that says we're looking at this and we do some communication, we will have a lot of that stuff removed. And then we can get a little,
That was part of the motion. So that we volunteer, we have a plan whereby we communicate with the citizens.
But I'm not talking that we go out and do the inventory. I'm saying we do that plan right now. Why would we wait? Have the mayor do that plan?
I didn't mean that we would.
Okay, well, that's what it sounds like, and then doing an inventory. I think that we could do that, and then I think we could have a small group of people who volunteer and put that out. There's people that walk our streets every day, and they could easily form a little community to give us some. I'm just saying, I look at things of getting the community
Would
involved.
staff then have to coordinate that community, or how would that happen?
Or we could, or a city council member, you know what I mean, try to take, what I'm trying to do is, I've been hearing, I guess, me too, I've been hearing, every time we go to say something that we have a lot of parties, I know that it's the end of summer, I'm sure we're trying to get a lot of stuff done. So I agree that trying to do something else, like, the next 2 months even, why we have 2 more months of actually being able to work outside, I guess I would not be in favor of that, the staff or the public works.
I was trying to move us.
Mary is next.
I think I would like to see it more broadly stroked, and it comes with education first and foremost. And you said it could be 3 months, it could be 6. I'd rather see the education of the community that we will, by spring, be enforcing what we have on the books already. So there's August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, 9 months of education. And if you don't know by 9 months, then something's missing. But we will then start enforcement of obstruction come, say, April 1st.
Is there someone in the body who'd like to speak? Is there, like to open the floor? Wait, is there a motion to open the floor?
I move we open the floor.
Is there a second?
A second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Please speak your name and your address, please.
John Carlson, 3135 Old Mac Road. Public Works got here already in August. How long would it take to do the inventory?
You don't know. It would take, I don't know, I'd have to sit down and think about it. Like 3 days.
So, there you go, you got 3 days approximately, and why not have a little letter that goes out to the offenders, they post on their front door that says, here's the law, if you don't follow it, here's what's fine.
It's not quite as simple as that, Attorney Carlson, because it's 3 days, he's not doing something else, his staff is not doing something else, and everything's a priority of the city of Washburn, and everyone wants everything done. This is often community members and business people who want things done now.
I understand.
And so it's just one more thing, it's now. So which one is it that you want now? And so if you don't want to produce this, you want to do this, what is he not doing? And that's why you're constantly, get this done, get this done, get this done.
Sure, but you wonder how long it would take, it's gonna take about 3 hours, 3 days of work, so 3
Maybe
days in the next.
He's speculating 3 days of work.
Right. Well,
So that's not going to hold up in court, Attorney.
let's talk about the snarky comments here, Mayor, that's not appropriate. That is completely
Speaking
out
of
of
not appropriate, I could bring up
That's
something,
not
I could bring up some emails you sent to me which are very inappropriate. Do you want to get into, those are
Let's get
public
back to the
record.
subject.
Get back in line.
Well,
Yes, Bob wanted to speak. Bob, can you speak up at the microphone?
Bob Anderson, Public Works Creator. I know a lot of other communities, just food for thought, potholes are always a big concern for communities. Blockage for roadways can also be another big concern. But a lot of communities, they have a place on their website, report a pothole, report a blockage for a village school website. If we can do this with the city's website,
We have this.
So
maybe we could educate people that that's mechanisms to identify issues. That wouldn't take that much effort. No, the problems would be identified. It wouldn't be on staff to identify the problems. Would be supported by the community.
Education is so much better than a notice on your front door. Get your stuff off the sidewalk going, or we will fund you. Education comes first and foremost. Most people, I think, in this town wouldn't have known it, so off they go with their stuff. I think it's a much nicer approach. It's a longer approach for education, and it doesn't put any kind of time on the staff. Yeah.
I think we just kind of got about it, we never enforced it, and never talking about it, so people were like, yeah, nobody's walking on it.
Right.
You know?
Karen?
Mr. Mayor, I'll withdraw my motion and entertain, perhaps someone can rephrase it in a way that will incorporate this good discussion that we had.
Mary?
I would make a motion to educate, communicate via face mail, via the e-blast, via our website, asking the help of the Daily Press, to educate people on this ordinance and the enforcement of such ordinance starting April 1st, 2020.
Mary, would it make sense to, Oh, thank you.
I didn't hear, was there a second? Okay, thank you. I was with the attorney.
And I'm wondering if you might introduce an amendment that would make the date of enforcement and finding vague and beginning to include, just so that people know that it's coming, so that they don't just wait until, I'll deal with it next spring. Because for some people, I think this is really a big issue, that they want to sidewalk, or they find that being impassable is hard. And not saying that we do anything before April 1st, but sticking to that date, but starting with notification, saying this will be enforced in the future.
Via our water bills, Facebook, website,
Everything,
all
yeah.
the ways we can do
Yeah, I
it.
think the motion was great. I'm just wondering about the date, when it's so far out, if it'll be more.
You know, they can say, I didn't hear it, I didn't see it, and I'll wait till April 1st to correct. But I don't know how to get away with the enforcement from April 1st, or March 1st, or January 1st, because then we have our winter. We know we still get snow in April. So we're dealing with winter and snow. Do we do the enforcement now, between now and the end of the year?
What if we left that in then, and also sent letters or left, not notices that there will be a citation, but directly to places that are brought up by community members that have an issue? If it's brought to the attention of any city employee that they get notified that this is an issue in the community, that this needs to be passable, please move this.
By reporting of community members or observation by staff, I could go with, but not specific inventory of properties throughout town.
Saying if that way, this allows anybody that has specific issues to say, I mean, because then hopefully then with a committee, they will be able to put efforts into figuring out how to do it comprehensively and cover everybody. But this would mean if nobody cares, then we can wait till there is something figured out to enforce it without huge burden.
I could live with that to move it along, yes. So amended by reporting of observations by staff, incidental observations by staff, or reporting by community citizens.
It's just a subtle,
Is the person who seconded agree to that amendment? Okay, so you've heard the motion, second and amendment. Any other further discussion?
My assumption would be, how would that information be passed? My thought would be, what, in the mail?
Try. Hearing
well,
none?
I'm wondering what do you think? Is this something that if you're on about, you have a way for pockets? You have a way to report their obstructions, issues, we can't use the sidewalk, the streets, Is that why you were suggesting that reporting system? Okay, so I guess that could just be part of education, then, not as like.
Right.
Did you have something to say?
That was part of the education to encourage.
Where to make the report out.
My recommendation is not to overthink it.
Thank you.
Let us figure out the best way to do it and we'll get it done.
Just want to make sure people are, they're here and concerned.
Any other comments or questions?
Okay, so we're going with the broad stroke one.
I don't know. quite what
Education
we're
of,
going to do.
communication of, enforcement April 1st, 2020. Okay. That was the
Amen.
first one. Okay.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Is there a motion to close the floor?
So moved.
Second? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Yes. Next item.
Mayor,
Yes.
there's the second phase.
Oh, the second phase.
Yeah. The first one was the obstruction.
Okay.
We haven't really come down to any action regarding sidewalks. Well, that's why I started there.
I really feel like there's so much more information that needs to be gathered to make a decision on. This isn't something any of us need to get with on. Can we just, can I make a motion that we form a committee for more information? And then what are you thinking? What would be the most helpful to get
Not a
making
committee.
progress? Not a committee. Okay.
Not a committee. If you have questions, let me know what your questions are.
So you want individuals coming in to talk to you, too? I mean,
That's easier.
easily?
Yeah. I mean, we have the answers. I don't see where a committee is necessarily going to be helpful at this point.
Oh, I was thinking, as well as suggestions about, finding money for one thing. If you guys don't have time, I've heard it mentioned there are grants, who's gonna write the grants?
There are no
Yes.
grants.
But people believe that there are, so, I mean,
People believe there's bloody everything out there, and they're drawing up as many people at the state of Texas.
and if it's a volunteer committee, does it harm? Is there harm?
Well, they just have to organize. We did a sidewalk committee twice. And we did it for the school, and I think at some level it was helpful because we did have something form out of it, but then we never had the money to fully complete. So, I mean, I think we know how much it is to do it, we
already know this.
well, I'm just saying, like, it's a matter of the council having the appetite to move forward and actually say, hey, we're gonna do a broad stroke and we're gonna direct the city staff to give us some quotes on how to do it, or B, we're gonna incrementally do it, we're gonna try to, we started by trying to do safe routes to school, because originally we got responses from the school that said, at that time, there were so many kids going back and forth between middle school and high school that, that's changed a little bit, where now we've got a new school where it's middle school and they're separated more, but we started with safe routes, So, I mean, if we have an appetite to start to research something, to start on it, but I don't think a committee is gonna help us, because that's just a lot of work in terms of, unless we have, at that time, the committee got together, they came up with alternatives. We worked with Public Works to get estimates, so that, at that time when we were ready, I think the committee maybe was a little helpful, Scott, maybe?
It was a specific location.
It's a specific location, so that maybe if we got there, it might be better. I'm not sure, but I'm not sure what we would like to do if this might be better.
Mary?
I think part of it is, as we come in, and again, sometimes we feel way too long here. But having gone through those sorts of things, again, Scott's been used to it too, everything becomes a top priority. And we know we've got West End, there's gonna be a lot of people for West End, we've got a lot of people for sidewalks. We know we're gonna be, millions of dollars for Bayfield Street. And I'm not sure that the city understands how tight our budget is. I mean, how tight it is when you're nitpicking through the budget, a few hundred here and a few hundred there to try to save $5,000. I mean, it is that tight. And so when all of these key things come forward, it's really exciting to think we'd be able to move forward. We've been there, it hasn't been done because we didn't feel like doing it. We haven't done it because we've never been able to afford it. And you're right, everybody thinks there's a grant out there. There just isn't. Do people want to spend money and time to do a playground? Way the heck more than they want to do something for a sidewalk. Way more than they want to do something to repair potholes. When you have goals like that, you have people all over it. When you've got the infrastructure of the city, they just say, well, we pay our taxes, you've got the money, do it. And we know that doesn't. It's like, through it as we progress through this process.
Oh, I noticed like this when I,
Thomas, the next.
oh, sorry.
I don't think we should give a committee on that, if it's gonna be, I think Scott and Bob already know what's going on with that, and the price is just, it's insane. People want. They have to understand, we don't have the tax base, we don't have the money to fix those sidewalks. It's like I said, it's gonna cost to remove trees, they have to be ADA, and just for the cement truck to show up, the cement alone is $125 to $130 a yard. 5 by 5 by 4, that's gonna make up yards real quick.
Yeah, when I thought committee, I was thinking more, but maybe is more applicable is a group of individuals in the community that want to find a way. Then, right? I guess that's what I was going with that, is that if maybe there is some mystery money out there no one knows about, that they can find it. So, but that maybe that's better off, not an official. I do wonder about liability though. I also would like to move on, but I just worry about liability with parents. If we're going to improve passability, people are going to fall.
That's our city attorney.
Generally, yes, the city's liable for any injuries caused on the sidewalk. I am looking into ways that the city may abandon or essentially these portions of sidewalk that are deemed not needed anymore. The procedure for a city going about that. I don't have an answer today on what could or could not be done. That's what I've been working on.
And I'm not worried, I shouldn't say not. I'm not worried about liability. But I feel like it is our responsibility to make sure that we have safe routes. And that's why I am a proponent of it, sometimes us investigating and looking into, like we did with the safe routes to the schools. In Washington, like you said, that is a main safe route for folks to get from Bayfield County to the courthouse and the library. I mean, I would be willing for us to start to take a look at how we can make that happen over time. And I think we do have to incrementally start to look at it, or we'll never do anything. Because we don't want people walking on Washington, because it is a busy street. It's like that's why we kind of have good sidewalks on the highway, because we don't want people walking in the highway. And I think Washington and our schools are important for safe routes. I think some of those other areas where it's slower residential, maybe it's okay, but and that's where can we remind me of where we are with the safe routes to school, and we were gonna block off half of that road, and we we're gonna have that, and then we deemed that wasn't necessary anymore because of the school. Can you help me remind me what we did?
Well, where that was at is, we had done some crosswalk and bump out improvements up there. We had done a one-way street up there. There was originally money in this year's budget to extend sidewalks down Fifth Avenue, 2 blocks. However, that was frozen earlier, a couple months ago. We had to reprioritize our budget priorities.
Okay, so for me, like just that, looking into that when we had budget discussions, to follow through on what we said we were gonna do last year for safe routes for schools. Like, I think we need to just start. I mean, that's why I think we don't ever take on big things because it's so overwhelming. And so that's why in my head, I like safe routes to schools. We had a committee, we addressed it, we had a plan. But we didn't follow through with it because we reprioritized. So for me, I'd like to at least finish the work that we started, because we had committees together. The school was bought in on that in terms of, we did the bump out, we have a safe crossing. You know, we did some work on that last year. So I think if we continue to do that incrementally, it might not please like big picture, but we're making progress. And I think that's the best we can do.
This most, the most motivating is the.
And then when we get to budget, we bring up that we should actually follow through on what we said we were gonna do for the safe route to the school. That's what budget, go back to that. So how much was that to do that, Scott? Do you remember the price?
Yeah, it was, I believe that's correct.
Yes, Karen.
My only concern, Jen, is that we're really kind of mixing apples and oranges. The safe route by school is certainly critical, and it was new stuff to do to ensure that, you know, bump outs and curbs and stuff. That's valuable in that issue. It seems to me that in front of us is a second issue, which is different, which is existing sidewalks that are public.
Right.
And those unsafe areas. I've walked that sidewalk between City Hall and the library like 4 or 5 times, and if one walked it at night,
Yep.
you kill yourself, or at least break a leg. I mean, it's terrible. And I guess I'm in agreement that we have to make sure that kids around schools are safe, and I would encourage that we proceed with that, and hopefully this budget year, we can in fact finance that. I guess my concern is that it does still leave hanging, what are we saying as a city council regarding crumbling sidewalks?
Well, for me, from the city council, I'm saying what's important for me is safe route to school, which we thought was important. So we did Bayfield Street, we did safe route to school, and then we were going to look at Washington. That was kind of our 3 steps that I thought as
Was
a
that,
council.
Washington was part of that plan? I
Yeah,
didn't
we
realize
talked
that.
about Washington being important, but doing the schools first, and then starting to look at Washington. So I guess in my head, incrementally, I'm kind of mixing the whole bag together, and I do believe Washington's important, but I think one thing at a time, you do the safe route to school, and then we start to, at some point, have to come back and start looking at Washington. I have no idea what it would take.
So if someone would ask me tomorrow, then I would say, yeah, we do have a plan. We're working on the school and that safe walking area, and we're going to try to finance that as soon as we can in our budget. And once that can happen, then we will move to look at other areas in the community where sidewalks are in desperate need of repair. Is that kind of what you're saying on Washington?
I would say would be my responsible
Okay.
plan of how we've worked as council in the past. Now, if you want to formalize that more, maybe then we need to do that. That would be, as a
Yeah,
city
I'm
council
just-
member, that's what I
I'm
would say.
just trying,
But that's also in my brain. So-
Okay.
But I was also here when we talked about it, and I recognize that a lot of you guys weren't here when we spent many city council meetings talking about sidewalks 2 winters ago.
And the only reason I'm putting, I'm sorry.
My only concern would be this. I think we should be looking at Washington Avenue, figuring out what the cost is, do block by block. If it takes 1 block a year, then we do 1 block a year, because that sidewalk is nasty all the way up. I think that would be more important, because there's trees that have to come down on Washington Avenue, because the roots put the sidewalk up.
Scott.
My recommendation is this, you have to decide, for budgetary purposes, what is more of a priority if you're looking at the schools first or Washington Avenue. If we can at least get that question answered, and then it's a matter of, and then you'll have to decide whether or not you want to look at special assessments, or if you're looking at making an entire contribution or a part contribution towards the sidewalk issue. And then it comes down to whatever contribution you can make, what can you afford. And that is about as far as right now I think we should think ahead.
I move that we reconfirm our priority for the safe, what's it called, safe route? Or,
Be careful, safe routes to school is
Okay.
a specific
Okay.
plan
We
that
re-
was
all right.
what it was.
I'll
So,
rephrase.
yeah, please.
I move that we recommit to financing as soon as we can I can go as soon as we can afford it, that we have, continue our priority, how about that? Continue our priority of the sidewalks regarding near the school and consider that as we look at this year's budget. And going forward, then begin to consider other areas, primarily, potentially starting with Washington, which is a critical area for repair. We are not yet saying, and this is a side note, we are not yet saying how that's going to be financed because, as Scott just outlined, there are 3 or 4 options. The homeowner, the city, or
Could we just go with the
I'm sorry,
motion,
okay.
not commentary?
I'm sorry, I apologize.
Is there a second to this?
Reconfirm our priority.
Is there a second to this?
Yeah, I second it. That's my understanding.
My comment would be, I don't believe we need to make a motion about this. This is something we are trying. This motion, I believe, is a bit vague. It's what are you referring to in the school area? I'm not certain what that means. We are trying to find resources to do this in conjunction with the school. I'm not exactly sure where the status is right now on that, but that's up to city council. So any other comments?
We already, like I said, we already had that plan. We voted on it, we had that plan, and we bumped the money, right?
Correct. So
So-
that's why I'm not sure we need another motion to do the same thing.
That's fine. I mean, I think as council members, like Karen said, we want to be responsive, and somebody said, well, what is the plan? So I just like you asked me earlier, to me, that is the plan. I will, when we go back into budget, we'll try to refinance that piece, and then the next step, I'll start, we'll have to at that time address Washington as our next one step at a time. If it doesn't need to be a motion, fine.
No, there's a motion, and a second on the table.
Who would be responsible for deciding what is a priority? I mean, you had a committee that did it, but it fell through the wasn't.
It didn't fall through, we financed it, and then I don't
We
guess.
budgeted that.
Budgeted,
Did not-
city council
We had
changed
a
the
reality.
priority.
Just reaffirm it.
But if anyone didn't agree that, I don't know where those roads are, that's the thing. I don't know what that plan is, so I can't vote on anything like that yet.
Any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Hi.
Opposed?
No.
No. I vote no. Fails to pass. Any other comments on this item? We're moving on to presentation discussion, especially discussion and action on offer by Bayfield County Properties LLC to purchase city lot number 47, John Carlson, representing petitioner.
I'll make this quick. Mayfield Properties withdraws their proposal and offer. Thanks.
Okay, we'll move on to the next item. Discussion and action on special event request for Book Across the Bay on February 14th and 15th, 2020. Benjamin Thone petitioner. I don't see Mr. Thone here tonight. You have information in your packet. Scott, did you want to make any further comments on this? Yeah. Commentary?
I'll hold any further comment at this.
I would like to make a couple of observations. I think the recommendation by the police chief to include a motion to have no alcohol outside the designated area would be an excellent idea, and have wristbands for those who are eligible to consume alcohol would be a very good idea. And also that we would request and get confirmation from the Book Across the Bay Committee that they will do a good cleanup by the end of the next day. There have been comments made by the public about the quality of the cleanup, which eventually did get done. So we want to keep everyone as happy as possible. So, what would the council like to do?
I really like that, but I will speak from experience, the next day is pretty tough.
Okay, how about the day after?
I would give them a few days, I
Okay.
really would.
A few days is fine, I just want to make sure that that's
Yeah.
on the
I don't know
radar.
how long, I mean, I know people have complained, but I honestly, given the size and the crowd and the volunteers they need and whatnot, I would give them a week to the day. Would be my, is it cleaned up by then? Or is it not?
I don't even think it has to be a time period, just
Okay.
the acknowledgement that they will endeavor to do such a thing.
Yeah.
I
That'd be
I
fine by
agree
me.
that it doesn't have to have a time period, just so. that-
Yeah, I've heard complaints as well, but, yeah. Next is.
It's a wonderful event. I was involved at the beginning of this, getting this going. It's great for the community. I don't want to see anything to hamper this event. It does a great benefit to almost everyone in this area. So,
So the change is that they're,
No alcohol.
there's only a specific designated area. of
right,
alcohol.
and that they're adding another night, it sounds like. Right, so they're having, another, they wanna have like a band the night before, so you're talking like, kind of 2 nights of like.
No, they want it from noon on the 15th until 1 a.m. on Sunday. Noon on Saturday to 1 a.m. Sunday.
So we would like to post a concert on Friday night before the event this year?
Sorry, Tony, let's speak.
Jen is correct, it would be for 2 nights. So there's a Friday night
Yeah.
event that they are asking or receiving permission to do as well.
I just want everybody to be clear that that was the change.
I missed that, I'm sorry.
No, that's, okay. I think it's a good idea, I mean, they're trying to get folks to come up for another night, I mean, I think it's okay, I just want us to recognize that the cleanup might be even more.
Or so.
So they're gonna have to clean up from Friday night to be ready for the race on Saturday, so, I mean, that's okay.
Yes, Scott.
As I have a chance to collect my thoughts here. I certainly think that the Book Across the Bay is a fine event and it's important to the community. I have made some comments to Mr. Fella on the event, and I believe that we should be working in the future to seek that this be a cost-neutral event to the city. The city puts thousands of dollars of labor and effort into this event. Given our budget situation, we have had a policy of not making contributions towards outside organizations. And I think that's something that we have to keep in mind with this event. Our ambulance is staffed and we are paying for that while they are there. Our public works does a lot of extra effort for this event. On occasion, our police have had extra officers on duty for this event. And those are all costs that the city has taken. And so it is something that I think going forward we should be mindful of. The city does not get money from this event, and I know that has sometimes not been clearly understood as well. So.
Yes,
I have a
Karen.
question, Scott. What was the reaction? I mean, can we work toward that, or is that something that?
They indicated that they would be responding in the future to that. No, I have not received a response yet.
Valid concern.
Well, I think over time things have just changed, right? I mean, I think it was something that was pretty small and manageable, and each year you go down there, you're like, oh, it's getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, it
and
has been for the last 4
Yeah,
or 5 years.
it's
yeah.
getting, so, I think it's appropriate for us
I
to
can
talk
put a little perspective on it. Washington City, 3 ambulances, which includes a snowmobile with two people on it, a snowmobile with a rescue sled, 2 people on it, and an UTV with 2 people on it. Athlon used to send the equipment down there, and the dividing line was halfway across. They stopped doing that. And
They did.
because of the cost, they said if you need to call 911. And the request was, well, Washburn has its sled down there, there's snowmobile flood down there, they can cover our area if there's somebody out there. So, originally, we were out there on the ice and people got tired and they expected us to haul them off. And we stopped that. So, I mean, it can be very time consuming and expensive. And we staff up for this event. So, there is cost. There is significant cost for it. Provide police officers and I'm sure public work puts in a fair amount of work.
A lot.
Yeah. So between putting up signs, parking signs, barricades, yeah. So it's a fairly expensive event for the city.
I'm wondering, why can't Washington do the same thing Ashland did, then? Just have them call 911 to save us money. It's not cheap.
Well, we want to support the event, but I think that if somebody is taking in revenue from that, they should share the revenue with the city to cover some of our expense. I think that's only reasonable.
And then we expected that certain there was frozen fingers.
It all depends on the temperature.
Alcohol.
It is a great event, we want to show support, so it's like, it's kind of that happy, it's like a happy medium, and so it's got a different approach if you, something you work towards, I don't know, we want to be more stringent in our permit, you know, that, I think that's the question, and kind of what we've been talking about with other things, like maybe this is the year where we just start that conversation, and then next year we might actually have to be a little bit more forceful. Yeah, maybe that's where we're at, I don't know.
Yeah, I would wait that long.
Okay.
They've been pretty right here for a
Well,
while.
and I don't know how these events work in other communities where the city, because obviously the city is a sponsor, and they give money. I mean, I don't know, you know, for a while here, I guess before I got on council, I thought that this was kind of it was a city sponsored event,
The
but
book
it's really
across
not.
the bay was to support the library.
Right.
They have long since stopped.
But I mean,
stopped-
yeah.
Originally, it was
stopped
the
doing
Tri-State
that.
Medical Society and the Washburn Public Library. And now it's this different organization.
It's their own entity, they're their own 401c3, and they do, I do believe they'll dole out money for certain requests throughout the year, depending on what they have available. But
Well, they've dispersed over $210,000 into the region through the use of work groups with national companies and a service partnership with local clubs, schools, and organizations. So definitely giving back from the community. I just don't know exactly.
But again, as we pointed out, and you will all see as you go through the budget again, every little bit, 1,000 or 2 or 3 or 4 helps. And you were right, they are a nonprofit but for-profit sort of thing. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the response will be.
The city administrator and myself are going to be speaking with the Book Across the Bay people to see where we can get on some of these items. At this point, I would hope you would just stick to these things here, and we'll see what we can come up with in the future. Yes?
That's my motion. I move that we approve the request that we have received from Book Across the Bay with the additional information included that we want visible wristbands for those who are drinking, that the alcohol be not utilized outside the designated area. I think those are the only two things that we wanted to underline, that they have wristbands and that.
Including no outside.
Right, yeah.
Yep.
And the other part was
And the cleanup to be done as quickly as possible and completely as possible. I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion in second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Next, discussion and action on acceptance of bid and award of contract for Thompson's West End Park Boat Launch Dock Replacement Project. You have information in the packet from our city administrator. How would you like to proceed on this? He recommends rejecting the project to be rebid in the later time in hopes of getting a better bid. It will be within our means to pay for it.
So moved.
Second.
Is that a motion to reject it?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I didn't want
A motion is second. Any other comments? All in favor to reject, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimously. Next is discussion action on acceptance of bid of an award of contract for 2019 street chip seal project. We have information here from Scott also, with his recommendation, since the bids were lower, to add additional streets. How would you like to proceed?
Following forward with Seth's recommendation.
Motion to accept this. Scott, did you want to make a comment beforehand?
The motion, the appropriate motion would be to accept the bid and to award the contract to Scott Construction.
Which, let me point out, is not Scott Hoover. That's the motion. Yeah, is there a second?
I have a question.
Well, first it has to be a second.
Second.
A second, okay. Now your question, Tom.
Because this is not the same outfit that was up in here last year that had all the problems with 8th Avenue.
No, that, in previous years, we've had Farner, this is Scott Construction, and the process is different. So for an explanation of the process, I defer to the public works director.
You want an explanation of the process?
No, that's fine.
Okay. Jen?
I have a question. We talk a lot about how things are overpriced and we have lots of different priorities. I think chip sealing is important. I think that every year we spend a fair amount of money, and I have understood the importance of chip sealing to maintain our streets for the future. But the fact that we have a little bit of extra money here and we're getting the streets done that we want to get done for this year, I understand we could add these more, but I guess my question is, are there some other things that are a priority that we could shift the money to get it done, because we know we often don't have a little bit of extra money? So I guess I don't know what those are because I'm not in, obviously I didn't even remember that we didn't fund sidewalk project that I thought we were going to fund. So I guess I'm just throwing that out there, Scott, because I know a lot of times I know these things shift, but we talk about a lot of extra priorities. We're getting the streets done that we accounted for. Yes, more bang for the bucks, I guess, for our public works and for Scott. Is there other things that are a priority that are not getting funded with this money before once? That's the only discussion I want to have with you.
Yes.
In my response to that question is, I understand that, and I understand that we did freeze things within the budget. I had thought that. My recommendation is to proceed forward with the streets and take advantage of the situation while these, if we can get all of this done, we will be so much further ahead. And I think it would be a good thing to take advantage of the price that we would receive.
Yeah, and that's fine. I just,
My additional comment would be that I agree with Scott in that if we're not doing these additional streets this year, we're looking forward to doing them next year.
They might be more,
And it'd be
yeah.
more, slightly,
Understood.
chances are we may not get the bid.
Yep, understood.
I think we're fortunate.
I didn't know if there was something out there that you could throw a little bit of money at that we were.
We certainly could, with the sidewalks or any other number.
I know. I'm just saying, I just wanted to kind of have a quick discussion on it, because it's not very often that we actually have something come in lower, right?
You guys are questions or thinking about chip sealing in particular, yes, Mr. Anderson to answer or explain to first common knowledge of like why the chip sealing is beneficial over any project, or why doing it a year earlier than putting it off. Is there any value in your opinion to doing it a year earlier? Deterioration?
Yeah, they've got charts and graphs and stuff about the
in the deterioration of your pavements. And the longer you wait, the more deteriorated they are, the less effective the permanent techniques are. And chip seal is definitely. Just a little insight before we did scrub seals. That was what the project consisted of over the last few years. And during that process, they apply a special, very expensive oil to the surface of the road. And it's supposed to penetrate into the asphalt and rejuvenate the asphalt. Get rid of some of the oxidation, which is the primary cause of deterioration. The downside of that is it only penetrates in very, very shallow. So, my professional opinion, that chip seal, put a different kind of roll down, put some smaller aggregate down, roll it all in, that gives you a brand new running surface. And also seals up the road when you get the top placement.
Improves the feasibility for those who are there.
It's really more geared to sealing up the road and making it impermeable. The worst thing you can have on a road is water. The second worst thing you can do is have water get down beneath the asphalt, and then it starts weakening up the subgrade material, and that's where you start getting ruts and potholes. So you really need to seal that surface off to make it impermeable. And that's the main function of this type of product, but it also gives you on the surface more traction.
Any other comments?
Laura, we read that, municipal training, the big handbook, it covers that, it's in there, it was a draft.
Oh, I remember that. I guess I wanted to about two things, the aggregate, seems thicker, that would help with this smoother. In my mind, what I'm prioritizing as is if that makes the street more reliable for longer, and if you don't have equal sidewalks anytime soon, then that's.
No, I mean, I think for me, it's about $10,000 that we, about $10,000 that we have, So getting those extra sections done, I think is important. I want to throw out there that $10,000 can be utilized for windows in City Hall, different things that we have put off for so long. But if this is I just want to throw it out there, that's all. That was just my only thought.
Windows are back in the budget.
Are they?
Yes.
Yes. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next, we have discussion on action on process/consultants for a revised or new comprehensive plan. You have information in your packet. What is your pleasure on this? The city administrator is seeking direction, not picking any particular course of action, but we're seeking how do you want to proceed? Scott?
What would kind of help with that? Are you looking to do something on the simple, less expensive side that may not fully gather everyone's views, or are you looking to do a more full-blown, comprehensive plan that we're going to go through this process, redo it, and we will try to do it as best as we possibly can? I'm looking for, if there are people that you want to speak to about this, if you need to bring people in to discuss this, to kind of give you, so you can hear it right from the horse's mouth, if that is helpful. So that's where that kind of feedback would be helpful at this point. I don't think we need to have a super wide discussion.
In other words, we could have presentations by potential people who might undertake such a consultation for comprehensive plan. And that will be decided later whether you want to do that type of work. So right now, we're not looking at what you exactly want done. Where do you want administration to start working for us? Tom, you would say.
Yeah, my question is this. As everybody knows, the ordinance has been construed to, where people think they, whatever, change the ordinance as they see fit to avoid like businesses coming in, their housing projects. And I think those ordinances need to be where it's direct, this is what it says, and go from there. Now, we can do that being rewritten. So, I mean, we've had people, we just went through it.
If I can address the comment. So the vicious cycle of municipal planning is we create a comprehensive plan, which is the new vision of the city. And then we revise our ordinances to help us to implement that plan. So the predominant thoughts and steps here is that, at this point, it's been 12 years since it took a long time to get the ordinance in place for the last plan. There are always going to be tweaks along the way. So the question is, at this point, are we ready to begin this process again with all the discussions that we've had related to development within the city and say, okay, everyone, let's be crystal clear. What do we want here? Where, or what do we want there? Come to a consensus that this is where we want things. And then we may need to look at the modification of our ordinances to accomplish the brand new vision that would be laid out.
That I understand. What I was getting at was, okay, an ordinance was interpreted that ran a business out here, they wouldn't even let them build because they're saying the scope of the building. Well, my saying to that, and then they're talking about having to do history work. If that M&E building was still standing, that business would be here today.
Well, I can't correct my past history, but I just want to point out that according to Wisconsin State Statute 66.1001.5, a comprehensive plan is advisory only and not binding on any local governments. And that is something that people have a hard time accepting. Either they hit us over the head that it's in the plan, why aren't you doing it? It's not in the plan, why are you doing it?
Which, and that is somewhat, I am unsure and have never really seen any enforcement mechanisms taken against the city for failing to abide by a plan. But yes, it is advisory in nature, but this legislature also states that several actions have to be consistent with the plan. So that's where those people get the comments that it has to be consistent. That's where challenges can arise.
But anyway, yes, Mary.
So part of what it was, what I kind of thought about on this one, and you were part is, well, because years ago, sitting with lots and lots of plans on the shelf, we did a study of the studies, and there were a whole lot of studies of the studies. And what we did as a group was read, nobody else wanted to do it. But anyway, went through to see what was still relevant in each of those plans and then bring the relevant, still useful information to council. I kind of feel that same way about the comprehensive plan. I don't think it has all changed so much in 12 years that much of the information that's in it wouldn't still remain as is. So my take on this would be more of a what's still of value to the comprehensive plan and not rewrite the whole thing from the beginning.
Go ahead, Bethany.
I think that there are some components. I don't think that our utilities have changed much in the past 10 years. We've only modified a couple lines since then. Most of our parks and properties are the same. I think the biggest transportation is pretty much the same. So those components are probably pretty similar. I think where we're going to have the biggest discussion is gonna be on the land use.
Yep.
And that's, so I mean, if you want to go forward with an update on the rest and then but focus a little more time on the land use, that is useful, and we can take that and refine these estimates a little bit and see what we can get.
Can you answer a question for me? Because that's kind of what I was thinking is when you look at the two that Northwest Regional Planning kind of quoted, right? It's kind of like an update, and then it was kind of more of a redo. And you said in your memo that then the other folks that you talked to, which I thought was interesting, you said that's kind of above and beyond. So I was trying to figure out how it all worked together. And so I agree with you that it's going to be land use, and if you could kind of describe to us how you think that they might work together.
I did some research, if I could jump in.
Yeah,
I
that'd be
did
great.
a bunch of research today because I was interested in what exactly this group, what the names of it, Mr.
Community collaboration.
Yes.
Yeah.
What he did. So I contacted the 3 cities where he has his recommendations.
Okay.
And said, so what did you do? It's Todd Street, I guess, community involvement. So I contacted the village administrator of Turtle Lake. I talked to the community development director in New Richmond, and I talked to the village administrator in Pleasant Prairie. Mr. Streeter does not do a full comprehensive plan. He just does the community action element of it. So he basically coordinates all the meetings, gets involvement, et cetera. And then there is an additional, or more than one additional consultant to do all the rest of the plan. So there's more than one element involved in this. And so the cost is more than just Mr. Streeter's company. You have other consultants who charge, depending on what you want them to do. So I said, so what are those costs? And it varies depending on what you do, how large the city is and what you do, but it's not inexpensive. It's quite costly, depending on what we want done. Everyone has said they think that his company did a wonderful job in gathering community involvement. The way he works is that, the way they explained to me how he works is that all 3 of those other villages and cities, when they were involved in it, they had no city council members involved, no city staff involved, no mayors involved, no one on committees or commissions involved. These are all new people involved. That is a challenge right there, is to gather those people.
Yeah, I was gonna
It's,
say.
they did it in those other cities and places, and they were successful at it. So it's pretty much a hands-off. But is it truly hands-off? Because where are those people going to go for questions? Here. So, but when the idea is that the council members, all those other groups, don't get involved in those meetings, attend those meetings, but you basically are just there to listen. So, and then it was brought forward to those various planning commissions and city councils and approved by those planning commissions and city councils. So that's how he prefers to work, and that's why he likes to get as maximum as public involvement as possible, feeling that gets the most public buy-in and acceptance of that.
Which I think to some level we may need in that land use, because I'm not so sure what we're gonna get from Northwest Regional Planning with our comprehensive plan update is gonna get us, I think, the community involvement that we may need in that land use. So I find that interesting, because I would like to hear more from that individual and how they would work with and if the planning, Northwest Regional Planning Commission, to kind of fold that into an update of our comprehensive. I would like to know more.
And if I could just add, I'm sorry, when he did work with Turtle Lake, they didn't know the cost of trying to dig that out because it was part of the regional planning group there paid for it, and so it was involved in that, so they don't know the exact breakout. In New Richmond, it was actually Mr. Streeter's very first job he did So they got a bargain basement price, and they doubt that he would do that again at that rate. But Mr. Streeter's charge was around $20,000, and the total bill was approaching $100,000. That is a much larger community than we are, and a much more wealthy community than we are. And also that in Pleasant Prairie, which is a population of $20,000, they only did a master plan there, not a comprehensive plan for a particular project that they're working on. And it took about 7 months. It took at least that long, with about a 20 to 35 member core group meeting every week. And they figured the plan wasn't as good as they hoped, because the expertise wasn't there to do all the things that they hoped to do. But that cost was approximately $30,000 just to do that one little part. Just as an idea of what some costs may be. What Washburn would be is up to what we want them to actually do. Yes, Karen.
My question was, has Mr. Streeter come back with any figures regarding Washburn?
He has indicated that it's going to be variable depending on what we want, so until we give him
I
some more
thought you said
specifics.
that he might come back with something.
That was his response.
That's why I went out to those other and said, what is your
Yeah.
charge?
My thought, having looked at the comprehensive plan and not read every word, I will admit, but looked through it at least. Certainly the land use section, I think, needs attention. I guess I believe that the intro needs attention too. I'm not sure that the shared vision section was very specific in terms of who are we and what do we really want. Okay, but that gets us in trouble, you know.
Well, in the day you didn't want to be, in this day you do
You know,
want to
but
be.
people, you know, I mean, residents continue to ask that, Mary, they continue to ask that.
Yeah.
And, yes, I understand that visioning is what that word is, visioning, and so you don't get down to nitty gritty. But, you know, as I read it, I'm not sure it grabs me, you know.
Well, again, but to your point is you couldn't go down the street and walk for a half hour and find 6 people that could say what our vision is or what we want to be, or so.
So I think as we go forward, talking about the whole area of planning, I would like us to, whether we do it with Streeter or Northwest or a combination or something different, that be also a section that some attention be paid to.
Yeah, goals. And
Yeah,
I
like,
agree.
you know, and like,
Yep, I agree.
I mean, when you read Part B for Northwest, it, of course, I like the first one at 11.5, but in Part B, it actually draws out land use a little bit, probably to more of what we're looking for.
Let's see if I can interrupt, I'm sorry.
No.
That, what community involvement would be to organize groups of citizens to be involved in that land use process, not, they work with Northwest Regional Planning to do that. So you still have his work involved.
Did you say would work? I'm sorry, would not.
He would be working.
Right, they would
Streeter
work
would,
collectively,
or
yeah.
Peter
Oh,
would, in
oh.
addition
Yeah.
to, because he does not do that land use.
no,
He does not do that element. He's not an expert. He gets, I guess, he crudely stating it, he rallies the citizenry to come forth and participate
Right.
in
You know
some
what
way.
rallying's like.
I'm just saying that he's got rave reviews. I am not saying pro or con, I'm just reporting
I get
what
you.
information I received.
I guess
Scott
I
has been
just-
to things where people say he's done it, you know, just, we've been through this in the West End Park Plan. There are people in this room who were very involved in the comprehensive plan years ago. I'm looking at them, I can hear, they know the citizenry involvement in that, what happens.
More than that.
Yeah, so there are pros and cons to both. Yes, Tom, you want?
So Scott, you figure all we need is just the land use update, or what about economic development? What would the cost be for that?
I think that one is probably related to the land use. So, I mean, if everything is gonna have to get a once over, at least. But there are certainly certain sections that are going to need more attention than others. And if we can identify those sections as needing more attention than others, then I've got something a little more specific to go back on.
Okay, so you're saying land use,
Land use and if economic development is something that the council would like to look at that too.
The rest of it, just, honestly, not that I want to cut things because, but so much of it has not changed in 10 or 12 years.
Well, what about, we talked a lot about the need for how, I guess I haven't reviewed the housing section either. So a lot of that, the housing section might need to be looked at.
Again, once over, like Scott's saying, but just we already have information on.
What, I don't know how much things have changed in
Yeah.
10, 12 years.
Not really.
But I do know one thing is like, unfortunately with planning, it really comes down to, if you want community involvement, it comes down to getting somebody that can do that well. And because if we don't, we're gonna be where we've been, you know, with not having buy-in and stuff, so I feel like we need, if we're gonna do this, we need, like, I like the idea of bringing somebody else in to talk through what they can do for community involvement. If we get a coastal management grant, this is one place where we actually might be able to
That is money.
we might be able to get grant matching funds for this, so, it's really a product of who we get in to help us, it really is, and, I think that's just something we have to keep in mind.
I didn't get into specifics in two of the cities, but Beth Thompson, New Richmond, who is the community development director, offered that she was the one living in that community who found all those independent citizenry who were not on committees and commissions to participate and got them involved, which was a phenomenal thing in my mind.
Yeah.
I don't know how the other communities got those people or how that worked, but she was very pleased with the way that came about.
And we do, I think we have a lot of, I think we have some new blood out there also, that will be part of our plan. I mean, I think that if we get somebody to pull in some folks like that, I think we'll be pleasantly surprised.
Well, I'd like to know what, is he knocking on every door and getting dinner invitations? I mean, I don't mean to be sarcastic.
I don't know that he actually did it.
Yeah, that was your point that you just made. It was somebody local that really went out to do that.
But once you get those people in the door, you have to have somebody that can like bring the vision together, like work that, and that is a special skill.
Can I really,
Don't hold back, Mary.
I know, but
I'm gonna get here in 5 minutes.
Yeah, speak into the microphone.
I just want to, we've been through them. You know what? Everybody at this table, one way or another, has been into these visioning workshops. And people come and they throw it all on the wall. And then you organize it this way and this way and this way. You get rid of the overlaps and you end up with a plan. And whether I was teaching for 20 some odd years or on council or at chamber or wherever, it is still the same format that you use. It's pretty much the same sort of thing. And I can't personally go through another one of them with the same rah-rah, but we got kind of snowed when it came to the West End Park. We had somebody that came and sold us a good bill of goods. They had great recommendations. We rallied around them. We got them. They came in. They did the same thing. They got everybody all excited about West End planning, and everything went on the list. And we did 3, what we call them, something else too, not just little.
Get a better name for it.
We did. Yeah, it was quite genteel in my memory. And it was reminiscent of all the other ones I've done in my professional life. And so I'm not just picking on city stuff. Went through in over 20 years of education. I would not want to spend extra money on somebody that has 3 great recommendations, although what's more important to me is the woman that said, well, I'm the one that kind of rallied the people. And if we're talking just specific to land use and shouldering economic development, my hopes would be that people would come forward without paying the extra money for the rallying person.
And my hopes are that the person who's doing a comprehensive plan has the skills to be able to make that into something that's, I guess, doable, because what happened with West End Park is we came up with something that actually just wasn't financially.
It was pie in the
it was
sky.
pie in the sky.
Yeah.
So we have to have some reality in it.
And that's why I talked about the vision statements, because they're pie in the sky. And so I think that we need to be realistic about who we are, what we have available, what we believe we'll have available in the future. Now, that's not to say to have a restricted vision.
You have to have some conviction.
No, I'm not saying that, but I'm,
Does
Jen, I'm not
someone like-
saying
I
that.
know, I know.
But I'm saying that you have to craft that vision in such a way that you have some benchmarks that you know, yeah, we're succeeding in that.
I agree.
Could we have Northwest and this Mr. Streeter and maybe a third group come and present to us? I mean, I don't know how we're gonna decide tonight.
No,
We're
I
not
don't just
gonna
have
decide.
to,
We're not
right?
gonna decide.
Okay,
Well,
There-
that's
there-
the-
you just wanted to identify land use as the most important part, not doing 100% rewrite investigation, statistic gathering, comprehensive plan. Am I correct?
Well, that's what I have gathered from your conversation so far, that that's what's important to you. I think that we can potentially refine this, and we can look at refining Northwest's proposal. We can perhaps continue the discussion with Mr. Streeter, and if you want other planning consultants to be considered, we can look at that.
I was just trying to figure out where we're going with this.
We can certainly also put out an RFP, because there probably are many other consultant companies who would pitch to us. Whether you want to go down that avenue, that is possible also. These are just 2 groups that we know about right now. I'm sure there's many more that do this work.
I mean, they don't, Northwest doesn't put in conduct this visioning exercises just because it looks good. They've been around a long
Yeah, they've
time,
been around.
so.
I just also want to say, I hope I'm not misinterpreting Mr. Streeter's company's work, but this is what I've heard from these groups I spoke with. And I don't want to belittle him or puff him up.
Got that. I just feel like I feel better about sticking closer to home with an organization we've worked with that has many years in the business, that is familiar with northern Wisconsin. And in a sense, we're somewhat local. I really feel, I feel like an idiot for having okayed hiring of other people out of our realm.
Lesson learned from the West End, is that what you're saying?
More than just this, yeah, of course.
Karen,
I have one more question. Does anyone have experience in working with the Extension Service, UW? Because they also are in the business of doing planning and comprehensive planning. That's my understanding, and maybe I'm wrong.
We utilized that for the chamber last year,
Okay.
and I felt it was great for the chamber at its size
Uh-huh.
and looking for its mission
Mhm.
and trying to fine tune. I don't know their record with something as big as a citywide company.
That was my question.
I will be meeting with the local UW Extension agent, another meeting for another topic, this week, next week. I'll bring it up.
To your point of doing local, a group that is familiar with us, UW
Yeah.
Extension in Bayville County is familiar with us.
Yeah, we can
Right.
talk to them, but in natural resources a little bit, we've worked with them. They brought it down. Stevens Plan probably put together a strategic plan recently, but I don't know if they have any local that does community plans per se, but it doesn't hurt to start asking around, I guess.
I just asked a
And the
question.
scope of what they go after.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that Would you update on land use and economic development?
If I could just interrupt, we had a request to open the floor for a while, and I'm letting you speak. Is there a motion to open the floor?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Yes, please come forward and speak into the microphone. Identify yourself to people who are not here.
Yes, I'm Ralph Edwards, and I live at 221 West 6th Street, 221 West 6th Street, Washburn. And I agree that economic development is strongly correlated with land use. I would also say that there's been a lot of evolution since 2005. I think we have much more of a general agreement. For example, that we want lakefront development. We want, as Mary said, March 11th, we want things on the lakefront. And what I have seen happening is actually compromise. Compromises have occurred. So I appreciate that this theme that the school administration started has actually, I've seen manifestations of it. Back in 2003 to 2005, I took a position on the land from 6th Avenue West to the existing condominiums east of Washington Avenue. And I stand firm on that position because I do believe, I believe then and I believe now, that that land should be preserved. However, I would add to that it is already that being quote unquote developed or cultivated, and that parts of it are mowed. And a couple of years ago, we cut down some hundreds of trees. The reason for this was to open views to the lake. And if you go down to Harvard Center and you see the results of that now, you can see what the city was thinking about it at that time. I do object to the way that it was carried through. That there was no discussion, that there was, it was just pushed through, without a discussion, without a vote, and action. So, I also want to say that we have examples right nearby of Bayfield that recently updated its comprehensive plan. I think we need to look at that. And look at that process of what Bayfield went through. And also that they thought of their town back in the 70s when they were starting their planning process in a way that led to not a perfect economy, it's a seasonal economy, but it's a very strong economy for 4 months out of the year. Washington is a year-round town, we're going to develop differently, but we can look at what Bayfield did in the process they followed. Bayfield said, we are a great town back in the 70s, and they have carried that through. I could give other examples of towns that have done similar, have branded themselves in a certain way, such as a little town near where my family comes from in northern Michigan, the Lower Peninsula, a town called Charlotte, which calls itself Charlotte the Beautiful. I've been calling Washburn Nature's Jewel. Washburn Nature's Jewel. I've been addressing this issue. You could call it Washburn's image. You could call it how Washburn can develop a place standing in this regional economy of tourism. And it's going to be different from Bayfield. It's going to be unique to Washburn. But we can learn from Bayfield, towns of Bayfield, and Charlotte. Thank you.
Okay, how would you like to proceed? City Council.
You need this plan renewed to get grant funding, is that what I understood? When it's outdated, when it has expired officially, then that changes.
I believe that is the risk we run by not updating it, is that agencies, state agencies and so forth, they're saying, well, what is your overall plan for this? If we're applying for funding and we show them our old plan and they say, no, it's kind of old. I believe it is a risk. Can I say that it will happen? No.
And I think we've been struggling in terms of, I guess, I have been struggling in terms of when things come forth on like some of the lake shore development of community buy-in. And so we talked about at the last motion that was made in that, you know, that housing development down there was, we need to do some visioning of what our community can get behind on that piece of land. And that, I think, is gonna be all rolled into this comprehensive plan. Okay, so there was some discussion at that time, where you do specific visioning for that downtown, for that lakefront area, for that 8 acres, or do you do something more comprehensive? And I feel like we're kind of going down the path of a little bit of more comprehensive, which I think is a good idea. And, I mean, I would say that, I mean, Scott, I appreciate you starting to dig into it a little bit and starting to do a little bit of research, and I think you're spot on with your memo, and I think that you just need to move forward and start thinking. I would like to hear, like you said, like Northwest Regional Planning Commission come here and give a presentation. I don't know if RFQs, I don't want to make you do like more work, but I do think that we probably want to hear from a couple different folks and have some examples so that we can all be familiar with what we're talking about. And that's going to require us getting some people in here, give us a presentation. But,
And then they would, I assume, give us quotes on
and
what
then
this
they'll
would
give us
cost
quotes,
us.
and they'll tell us what they focus on and how they're going to do it.
Whether they can just update a portion of it. Yeah.
At the end of the day, our objective would be, if everyone is comfortable moving forward with this project, is to select who or whatever combination of individuals we think can achieve the goals that we will more specifically lay out, and enter a contract to get that work done.
Realizing that this costs money, is part of the budget for the future. And if we're fortunate in getting a matching grant or any type of grant, great. If not, it rises in the priority list.
I have one question. The Bayfield Street, we keep talking about that, about how we're using Bayfield Street. I know, like, the opportunities that we have when that's being done to kind of, you know, different things, is that part of, would that be wrapped into this too?
Potentially.
Yeah, I'm just trying to like kill all of this, because I don't, when we get to that point.
Land use.
That's a big, you know, that's a big
Infrastructure.
thing that's coming up, that I don't think we probably have a very good, a vision for, and it would be good to wrap that in there too, so that we're ready, you know, when we're ready. So I guess,
I would agree that is a good idea, knowing that those upgrades and amenities are going to be the city of Washburn's cost.
right,
So that's another thing, we might be borrowing quite a bit of money for.
right, it'd be nice to kind of
Well, I
start to
think
figure
that's-
out what that vision would be, so we're not struggling at that point.
Excellent
So
idea.
that's something that we can put wrap in there.
Need that in advance.
Yeah, I have to say what we've done the last time was, let's just look at the planning for Omaha Street. And then when it was suggested the comp plan, you backed it up with, it's 12 years old, and you said it just made way more sense.
Yeah, I agree. Does that make sense to you? Yeah, to do some context?
So just some clear, you would like to have a couple of these two to begin with, groups come and make a presentation. Is that the way you want to move forward at this point?
And I've been trying to find one more local, and I think that, I was wanting to put some feelers outside, if you've done your stuff, Scott, and I know Tony, you're very quiet, but I know that you have a lot of expertise in this. Good spot. So, I mean, I've been going to do a little bit of research and try to find a third person.
Fine.
With some of the avenues that I have.
Any suggestions would be good
Yeah, you know.
that you can recommend from anywhere. Is that how I would like to move forward? I don't think we need to have a motion on this. I think we just have to direct looking to it. All right, nothing else, then we'll continue on. Discussion and action on recommendation to allocate $7,500 from the 2019 capital budget savings or from the park designated fund for campground pad improvements. We have a memo from our assistant city administrator. anything you'd like to add to this? Or?
Nothing I'd like to add.
Okay.
Sure. Well, I guess I will say that it was discussed at the park committee meeting last month when we were having our budget discussion. They made a recommendation for the council to budget funding in next year's budget to improve camping pads and campgrounds. The best time to do that is not next year before the season starts, but actually this year, the season ends because of weather. Thus the recommendation to seek the funding this year in the application.
And this came about, because Scott had put a memo out to the committee that just said, hey, if you're, it was your opportunity as a committee, if you have any needs moving forward. So we had a good discussion on how the city does budget. And so we asked our public works, having the campground be one of our biggest assets. And we asked our public works director, what if they do one thing, what would you do? And he said, we need to get, leveling and doing some work on those camping pads would be a really good asset. So that's how we we didn't we came up with this because of the recommendation from the public works. Something we could do small, trying to improve because they are such a great asset for us.
Yes, Karen.
I had a question, Jim. Did you want it specifically from the capital budget or from the park designated fund?
I don't think we didn't have any
You
specific, I mean,
didn't-
I
the
guess
committee didn't talk
I
about
thought personally, I think some of that stuff can come from that park designated fund. I think that's the part of it, is we have some money set aside, to put back in the parks, and I think and we've been doing that. It's the worst.
Because Scott's memo talks about it coming from the capital budget because of the savings that we had.
And I would
as
leave
one
that-
option.
And I would leave that up to that great finance committee recommendation.
Actually, it's the city council who will give the direction.
I'm just saying, I don't have it.
Yeah, it hasn't been in front of the finance committee. Scott's recommendation.
Scott.
My preference would be that we use some of the frozen dollars from the capital budget for this at this time. I prefer to build the park fund
Larger
for, right, especially because we're going to need more dollars for the West End Gulf program.
Then, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I would move that $7,500 of capital budget be reauthorized to fund the camping pad improvements as recommended from the Parks Committee. Their recommendation was West End Park, in West End Park.
Is there a second? Okay, any other questions or comments?
My only question was, there was something in here about whether the press would pay for 10,000 for the basketball courts. And I didn't know where you were going with that stuff.
That was one of my recommendations, that 7,500 of that. Well, no, that wasn't it. No.
Yeah, so that's why I was a little confused with your memo, because it was like a sentence in there, and I thought you were gonna give a recommendation on the basketball courts, and then I kind of dead ended.
The 7,500 is the money that was not left over, but because we had insurance covering the water bills. They were not is that not true, Scott? That's our.
No, that's true. The point that I was relaying to Tony is that we had that in our budget. We simply froze that allocated. By doing it this way, I don't have to do a damn budget amendment. The money is in a parks line item. We're just going to use it for a different purpose.
Okay.
So
I was just wondering.
my motion stands,
Yeah.
$7,500 from the capital budget
Okay.
for West End camping pad improvements.
Moved and seconded. Any other further comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. I forgot, is there a motion to close the floor? Second? Motion second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next, discussion action on cruise control activities in the West End Parks Treatment Plant area.
I would make a motion to move forward via the goose population protocols or for harvesting on goose this fall.
Is there a second?
Second.
Go ahead. Tom is second. Moved and seconded. Any other comments on this item? We've been through this many years. Jen, did you want to say that?
The only question that I had is somebody brought up to me, I have no idea anything about this, but, like instead of rifle, bow. Somebody had asked that you have a lot of archery people and like that is I'm just asking.
I'm not familiar with that being an effective method. We don't. We basically have a volunteer who has been doing the vast majority of this, and so we would need to become, I believe, just for safety purposes, very familiar with anyone else, because we have kept this to this individual or other police officers have been the only ones that we have allowed to do this.
I'm sure you want to hear it. It was just brought forward that I think a lot of people want to help, and my response was, I don't know if we've ever.
I don't know that it's
Well, other
approved,
people
I don't
helping,
think it's an
so-
approved,
I can look into that too, but it's my understanding, only hunt migratory birds with certain range of shot, with a shotgun, like BB to number 7 shot. And I don't, not
I
looking
just
into it
mentioned
specifically, but
I just didn't know if they knew anything about it, somebody asking. I think a lot of people want to help, so I get questions sometimes, I'm like,
Okay. We have 2 requests to open the floor. Do we have a motion to open the floor? If you so wish. Motion to open the floor.
Second.
Second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
So I think John was first, actually.
Ready to go.
Okay. Please state your name just for the record.
Of course, Ralph Edwards, 221 West Sixth Street, Washburn. Just a couple of points on this. Some years back, this was, I believe, framed as a hunting versus anti-hunting issue, which it simply is not. I have no objection to hunting. In fact, in the past, I have been one who has gathered some of the rewards of this hunt. Something used to eat. They are delicious. Goose meat is very good. I would say, however, that I have also in the past volunteered to pick up the goose droppings. And I would volunteer again to start a group to do that on a regular basis to do this, just go through the park and pick them up. With a group, it could be a community project, it could be school kids, it could be adults, it could be a mix. Just something to do for community beautification that would address the issue without, possibly alienating some of the campers who have objected to this. I believe in the past, we have a hunt going on, and we have campground people there for the tranquility, the peace, and we have good environment. There is a place in this town for some geese and possibly some swans. And, again, I'm not, I make no objection to the hunt. If there were a hunt, if the meat goes to the community, that is very good. I'm all for that. But I would just say, let's first look at this picking up the drop. And I will volunteer to do that.
I don't believe you need the city's approval to pick up goose droppings. Feel free, go for it. Pick them
No,
all
but I'm
up.
saying that it could be put out there as a solution rather than substitution of the hunt. And that it could be made a regular thing. And, it could be, I have a contract right now to pay down my city utility bill. I'll sign a contract, you'll do this too.
I don't know, I don't believe, I have no idea the legality of paying down the city utility bill by picking up goose droppings. So
No,
we'll
I
have the
just
city
mean the
attorney.
contract one, but I mean, it's more than just a nice fun gesture. I'm saying it's a possible solution that I would agree to.
Okay.
Concerned citizens.
Include the
Thank you.
arena at the same time, because
Yes.
they're taking over the arena too, and it's a mess.
John, just state your name and address, please, for the record.
John Baruch, 516 West Pine Street. I'm the bow and arrow. It could be done, but it would be very ineffective. It takes a lot of time. A lot of my time is spent down there, and I'll make this as quick as possible. It's a long night. I go down there and scout those geese. I'm not shooting migratory geese. I'm shooting resident geese. I go down there and watch these small families throughout the summer. And those are what we're targeting. So when we're going after them with a shotgun, I've got more than one shot. And I can go after the mating pairs, and that's what I'm going after. So that's the easiest way.
It seems to make more sense. I just like to ask questions, people ask me things that I don't know about.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things that can be done.
Yeah.
But some of them are very expensive, and it's not costing the city. The one thing I would like to get out there, this is not a hunt. This is eradication. And we're not the only city that's got a problem. Superior is opened up areas where they're hunting the geese inside the city limits. Ely is having a problem right now. They're trying to figure out what to do. We've headed down to where we had only 2 mating pairs left. And then we added the eggs in the spring, which, takes care of a lot of the young. So this year, though, we had a lot of problems. The geese are feeling smarter. They moved out of the city limit and nested, so we only got one there. But I just wanted to know that we could do it with it, but it would be very hard.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a motion to close the floor?
So moved.
Second? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Did anyone else want to say something with regard to this?
Yeah, my apologies. I did just get a text from somebody that said that they can't hear, particularly me. So a reminder of, and I'm not sure who it was, but my apologies. I will try to talk into the microphone better.
Thank you. How would you like to go forward?
I would make a motion.
Motion second? Okay, I'm sorry, about lost there. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Discussion and action on establishment of council member email addresses. We have information from the city administrator. How would you like to proceed on having email addresses? No desire?
I would have
Great.
I would have a desire because I will say, using my personal email, I used to be able to handle it better, but now I have so much other stuff mixed in that I've missed a couple of things, and so I would prefer to have a city email where before I wasn't interested, but I am now.
I think it's an excellent idea so that you can keep track of the public information
Yep.
or
That's
all of
Yep.
that, things that you may miss, we may need in the future.
Yep.
There are those who do not, yes.
perfect.
Thank you, welcome.
But no, I have not a question. If we had, if we go forward with this, and I would hope that we do because it makes a lot of sense, would we do the same saving of all city correspondence, or because it's coming on a city email, would the protocol be the same as saving?
You would
Put in a file.
for ease, you'd still need to save the stuff. The point of, if we do this, I would create addresses for each seat. And we will keep these addresses then until email is no longer a thing.
I would make, Mr. Mayor, then I would make a motion that we go forth with setting that the administrator set up email accounts for all of the council seats so that we can better manage city-related business information.
There's a motion, is there a second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Alcohol licensing matters, new bartender licenses number 21-32 through 21-35. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
Mary had a second there?
Yeah.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Chairman, I was.
Get requests.